M23's Resurgence. DRC ongoing struggle for peace. The M23 was formed on 4th April 2012 when nearly 300 soldiers, most of them former members of the National Congress of the Defense of the People CNDP, turned against the Democratic Republic of Congo government, citing poor conditions in the army and the government's unwillingness to implement the 23rd March 2009 peace deal. Its leader in General Sultan Makenga. The M23 claims to defend the interests of the Congolese, Tutsi, and Kinyarwanda, asserting they are under severe threat from Hutu militias and denouncing the DRC's inability to protect them. However, the M23 has perpetrated human rights violations among civilians, including Tutsis, when it occupied the provincial capital of Goma, North Kivu, in 2012. It took the joint action of the Armed Force of the Democratic Republic of Congo, FARDC, and the United Nations to defeat them in 2013, causing many combatants to flee to Uganda and Rwanda. Following its defeat, the M23 laid low until March 2022 when they shot down a UN helicopter, killing 6 UN troops. They expanded their grip by taking hold of the Rutshuru territory, raiding the Ramangabo military base in May 2022 and capturing the Bunagana border town in June 2022. The attack on the Rumangabo military base provided the rebel group with access to military weapons, while the capture of Bunagana increased its revenue base through illegal taxation of border trade. In late November 2022, the M23 also captured Kibumba and Buhumba in Rutsuru territory, cutting off Route National 2, a major access road to Goma. Honor among thieves. Some rival rebel groups included a non-aggression pact during an informal meeting in May 2022 in Panga, North Kivu. Patriotic motives certainly played a role in the pact, as many view the M23 as a foreign proxy. The FARDC was also seeking unusual allies in their fight against the M23. A UN midterm report showed how the FARDC supplied weapons and ammunition to and engaged in combat with various non-state armed groups. Human Rights Watch condemned this practice, stating the DRC government was in cahoots with groups involved in severe human rights violations. In the end, DRC President Felix Tshisekedi denounced the FARDC and reshuffled the army commanders in North Kivu on 6 July 2022. However, evidence still shows a collaboration between the FARDC and a rebel group known as Forces Démocratiques de Libération du Rwanda, FDLR. M23 and regional rivalries. What distinguishes the M23 from other armed groups is its impact on the fragile power balance in the African Great Lakes region. From a Rwandan perspective, the M23 support of Congolese Tutsis and its fights within the Rwandan rebel group FDLR results in some aligned interests. According to President Kagame, dismantling the FDLR is a security priority. He was quoted as saying, "But when anyone crosses the red line, we don't ask anybody for permission to intervene. We simply move in and sort the problem out." The UN midterm report indicated Rwanda, stating the Rwandan Defense Force was partly responsible for the arrival of the M23 by supplying military and operational support. Uganda received permission to pave 1,182 kilometers of roads in North Kivu, which is a stem to increase border trade between Uganda and the DRC. However, Kagame feels that the roads between Butshuru and Goma would upset the Rwandan sphere of influence in North Kivu. This project also linked to Operation Suja, a military operation to secure the road and fight the Allied Democratic Forces, ADF, an Islamist extremist group. Besides roads, there is also a clash of regional mining interests, as Rwanda and Uganda are the main conduits for illegally smuggled gold. Peace talk at the round table. The rise of the M23 is causing anti-Tutsi and Kinyarwanda sentiments. In response, President Tshisekedi urged his countrymen not to give in to xenophobic remarks and other speeches of hatred or stigmatization of Rwandophone communities. Pacifying Eastern Congo was one of the President Tshisekedi's electoral promises. To this end, he declared military action in North Kivu and Ituri in May 2021 and agreed to joint military actions with neighboring countries. Despite these measures, the revival of the M23 could not be stopped. East Africa tried a different approach by organizing several peace talks with the Congolese officials, rebel leaders, and regional partners to address grievances and negotiate disarmament conditions. Despite the EAC's peace-making efforts, several issues hamper lasting peace on the ground. Firstly, the M23 was not invited to the Nairobi peace talks as President Tshisekedi considers them a terrorist organization and a Rwandan front. Secondly, both the M23 and the FARDC accuse each other of not honoring ceasefires. Thirdly, the above-mentioned ethnic tensions exacerbate the violence even further. Finally, it is a short-sighted presumption that stability would return to Eastern Congo if only the M23 laid down its weapons. In any case, military responses in the past have not prevented the M23's resurgence. Hence, a different strategy which focuses on genuine structural reforms, local grievances, and restoring dialogue between Tshisekedi and Kagame is needed. Meanwhile, Kenya's President William Ruto making friends abroad and enemies at home. Kenya's President William Ruto campaigned for the August 2022 election as a man of the people, but deadly protests over his economy policies have demolished his image domestically and tarnished his standing abroad, analysts say. The embattled leader is facing searing criticism since he won the hotly contested election, with the discontent mostly led by young General Z Kenyans rattling the nation, a traditionally stable Western ally in an often chaotic region. The protests were sparked by proposed tax hikes in the 2024 finance bill, but have snowballed into wider disillusionment as Ruto's top-down style of governance resulting in the most serious crisis of his presidency and catching his administration totally off guard. At least 60 people have been killed since the demonstrations began in mid-June, with police sometimes firing live bullets at protesters, and dozens more are missing, according to a consortium of lobby groups including the Government-Funded Rights Commission, KNCHR, and Amnesty Kenya. Ruto had initially described the agitation over what Kenyans see as widespread government corruption and inefficiencies as treasonous and vowed to quash the unrest at whatever cost. but he later backtracked, taking a series of drastic steps to address public anger, including withdrawing the finance bill, dismissing almost his entire cabinet, and making deep budget cuts. Activists have vowed to return to the streets Thursday to again demand the resignation of Ruto, who built a career on defeating expectations after he reappointed half of his sacked cabinet and co-opted 4 heavyweight opposition politicians, playing catch-up. The 54-year-old Ruto misjudged the depth of citizens' anger, wrote Fergus Kell, Africa Program Manager at the London-based Chatham House think tank. He and his political allies have been left playing catch-up with a haphazard range of concessions, Kell said in an analyst last week. Kenya has a long history of political elites joining forces in times of crisis, effectively leaving the country without an opposition. Often, such deals have left the population with no benefits as politicians harvest jobs and perks. It is far from clear that such an approach can deliver the same results this time around, Kell said, adding that it may represent a misreading of newly decentralized patterns of protest. The entry of veteran opposition leader Raila Odinga's men into government has opened fissures in the ruling party. Ruto's deputy Rigathi Gachagua, he said he was being frustrated in the government, echoing Ruto's fallout with his predecessor Uhuru Kenyatta. Public frustration built over months as Ruto's cash-strapped government indulged in lavish spending spree while austerity measures took a toll on citizens suffering high costs of living. Ruto, one of Kenya's richest men, did little to forestall the crisis, analysts said. As president, he has made more than 60 trips abroad, including taking a luxurious private jet to the US where he was treated to a White House state dinner. He has sought to boost his credentials as an African climate champion and peace mediator in conflicts in Sudan and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Ruto's presidency has been below expectation, Macharia Monene, professor of international relations at Nairobi's United States International University, told AFP. It is due to his disdain for competence and knowledge, in state of limbo. Observers attribute Ruto's aggressive ambition to the fact he had to struggle for everything he has achieved in life from his lowly start in Kenya's Rift Valley. His fortune is now said to run into many millions of dollars, with interests spanning hotels, real estates and insurance, as well as a vast chicken farm. He first got a foot on the political ladder and, detractors claim, access to funds in 1992. After completing studies in botany, he headed a youth movement tasked with drumming up support for the autocratic then-President Daniel Arap Moi. The protests have left Ruto caught between pressure from international leaders to pay down Kenya's massive $72 billion debt and the public finding it hard to pay for basic necessities. Ruto, who was deputy president for a decade, must now create jobs and rebuild trust among the striving Kenyans or hustlers he pledged to fight for in his 2022 election campaign. The onus is on the Kenyan leader and his colleagues to repair their relationship with the public, said Meron Elias, an analyst at the International Crisis Group. Also, Ruto could offer a clear timeline to carrying out the cost-cutting measures and other reforms he has promised, given widespread skepticism about his sincerity. Kenya has one of the most dynamic economies in East Africa, but a third of its 52 million people live in poverty. Private sector activity dropped in July amid the public unrest, while ratings agencies have further downgraded Kenya's credit rating. The country's operating environment will remain in a state of limbo until the government offers more guidance on future policies and reforms, Oxford Economics said this week. And that's it from Injibs Africa. Stay tuned to US news and political updates.